I'm not going to direct this video to AJ specifically or Hecklefish, even though they're the shit. I'm just going to, like, make it. So one of the ways, okay, so I made a video about how, like, the government was, obviously, we knew now that they did, like, human experiments on entire populations of people or individuals without their knowledge or consent. And things that we thought were, like, absolutely impossible, we now know to be fact for the most part. Excuse me. But I also had touched base on, like, God and Satan and their life being, like, a game, like, and there being two sides of the war, or even the coin. However, so back to what I was saying, blah, blah, blah. So now, because of things like magic and demonic contracts or blood oaths, and we know that we have, like, certain plants or chemicals that can alter your consciousness or your, like, there's truth serums, right? And we also know, like, so when the initial thing started, I was talking about some stuff about the CIA children's time jumpers, right? And the government doing these bad experiments. However, even though the government is an entity that, like, tends to walk in gray areas or the loopholes, there's an even worse side who is available or has now become experienced with the same technologies or capabilities through malicious and alternative gains. So, like, they've now obtained the technology or the knowledge and the capability to do some of the things that the government has been able to do, but for private citizens. So one of the ways the bad guys, now in this part of the story we're going to call the government the good guys. So the criminals now have the same technology or substances, like the truth serums or the capability to use spell work to mind erase or alter consciousness. So another way that they have been able to do this is through drugs and alcohol, mushrooms being a huge one, psychedelics and alcohol. So again, when you ingest alcohol, we know, even on the bottle or the store itself, it says spirits. Like, there's an ancient god, like literally alcohol, and there's other entities. So like when I say Satan a lot, I don't mean just Satan or the devil. I mean, like, demonic entities, like bad spirits, bad witches, bad warlocks, bad gang members or cartels, organized big law, cults, covens, secret societies. So again, they can snatch people up by using the same tricks that the devil's always used. Your family, your friends, your desire for fame or clout, and can tie you to these contracts like NDAs, or put you in a situation under duress where they have, like, threatened your family or your life to get you to pledge your soul or your body. But there also is a way to, you don't really know what you're agreeing to. So, like, because these things like drugs and alcohol literally remove and alter your state of consciousness, and because again, your body and your soul are now in a state where they can remove it. So there's a way that they can remove your consciousness and place it into, say, an animal, a child, another body. So, and then they can take over your body with their consciousness. So there is a lot of crimes that we are aware have happened, or missing people, murders, blah, 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 have been done either by people who did not know what they were doing because they were under heavy drug and spell work influence, or completely 1000% removed from their bodies and placed into a child's body or an animal. So there is times, and again, we call it nonverbal autistic or temperamental, distemperament, whatever. So because again, there's children, and especially they seek out the vulnerable ones or the spiritually gifted ones. So like say somebody is spiritually in touch or super empathic, and we discredit them as saying that they think they see things or hear things that are not there. However, just because people don't see them or hear them does not mean that they're not there. Like there's people with heightened awareness and the ability to heightened senses. We know that Asperger's is high functioning autism, and it's a huge sensory issue. We know that even nonverbal autism on the spectrum is huge about sensory, okay? And we call a lot of things like multiple personality disorder or schizophrenia, we label these things because, and again, not saying that these things are not real things, but like a lot of times it's misunderstood or mislabeled and misrepresented. Even ADHD or ADD in children and adults, we are also not correct in our understanding of what those things are. Or even simply depression. People think that we mislabel depression a lot because, again, people who with heightened sensory issues can be so overstimulated, or people who are super empathic are so sensitive that they legitly become agoraphobic, hermetic people that hide from society because they can't handle the vibrations, the energies, or the spiritual weight of being around other people, because energy transfer is very real. We now know that if you speak to water a certain way or plants a certain way, they will grow better or worse. And or when you freeze the water and you look under my microscope, we can literally see the emotion or the vibrations trapped in the ice that we spoke into it while it was fluid. So say that somebody, and again, there is like magic, like we call it smoke and mirrors for lack of better terms, or illusionists, right, who can make something appear to be something else. There's literally blood magic, moon magic, beauty magic, death magic, and again, so like I was saying too about music and movies that are telling us things. So like one of the big things is even cartoons. So the Monsters, Inc. cartoon, where there is literally the monster's job is to harvest the screams from the pure, innocent children by terrifying them. And that's what they use to power their grid in the monster world. So, and that's literally true to life with what the bad guys do in the 3D regular world, where these secret societies, these cults, these covens, these corrupt churches and government entities are literally using the fear and illusions of the innocents, especially children and people who are spiritually gifted or pure, to harvest their fears and their pain to power up their magic. Because again, they're another big thing I was saying about the transferring consciousness. People have the desire to be immortal, to beat the system. So and again, people want to be famous, but nobody really wants to do the work if they don't have to. So again and again, it's really like we've figured out too that 99% of people, not all of them, but like a huge majority of them, will do certain things if they feel like they can get away with it. So like stepping on somebody's back, taking credit for somebody else's work, stealing their possessions or their partner, or they're tarnishing their reputation and blah 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 blah. So like a lot, and we know too that like there's when we die that we don't really leave. But these people who are utilizing the dark arts, the occult, right? They have found a way to transfer consciousness and souls so that they can literally live forever. So like say, I'm not going to use any names, but there, again, I do know some specific exact names of celebrities who are not what you think they are. They look super beautiful, they look super young, but in fact they are super old and super wretched, and they are the masters of the occult and the ones that are using this blood magic, the moon magic, the death magic, and even sex magic. People don't understand that sex is energy transfer. So again, and all these powers and spirits, they want sacrifices. So like people misunderstand too, like why did God cause these catastrophic events? Why did these things happen? And it was because, and why, if you look back throughout history, the sacrifices or the worshiping of the gods, of the elements, right? It started as this beautiful thing. You paid tribute, paid homage. But then once things don't go people's way, then they're like, oh, we need a better sacrifice. So it went from lighting incense or burning grain or certain spices and lighting candles to now we are sacrificing our babies or our virgins and things like that. We went from being, and again, before we were, sex is beautiful. Like sex with your partner is beautiful. It's meant to. We're the only species though that have sex for like recreational purposes, other than like a certain type of, I think gorilla and and dolphins, right? Like they're the only ones that masturbate and like rape. Before that, it's people. Every organism only utilizes sex for procreation, for continuing the bloodline, the lifeline, to build an empire, to have more numbers. So like, and again, because sex is energy transfer and it is something that was pure, we have found the powers, that the bad guys use these things in a corrupted way. So now that's why this huge pedophile thing is coming to light. That's why if you look back at ancient civilizations, even like, so like, not so ancient, let's say like a little bit more modern, if you look at Pompeii, okay, there was like a red light district, right? There's certain, even the pictures painted above like the rooms was like a menu, okay? And we had slavery, that we had like the sex workers weren't sex workers by choice. They're literally forced into its sex trafficking. And so back to also to the CIA thing. So there's this technology that AJ was trying to say didn't seem realistic because they could just plug it into the wall, but that's very true. And again, the government probably has their shit, excuse my language, in a government facility, but there's also bad people who have this same type of technology in just what looks like to be a regular house. So like you hit the elevator button and now you are in anywhere that they want to be, depending on what they code. Because again, we look at time and space incorrectly, and again, we don't realize that technology and magic can be utilized to teleport in not only people's consciousness or souls, but their physical actual body and location. So like Star Trek, where they're like, beam me up, Scotty, like they can literally beam you to where you wish to go. And it seemed like you didn't go anywhere at all. Like you just went up one floor, but really you're in another country or another thing. This is a big reason why we can't catch a lot of the sex trafficking, the organ trafficking and harvesting. A lot of crimes are not being able to be solved because of several reasons. One, children and koala bears. Stick with me. Their fingerprints, when we're young, our bodies have more fat and protein in them. And so when you touch something, your fingerprints do not stick to objects the way that adults' fingerprints stick to objects. Because even if you wear, like for a long time, people were like, oh, if you wear gloves, you're going to be able to get away with certain things. But now technology has evolved, and we now know, too, that that's not true, because you're, even through the rubber glove, the latex glove, you can still leave a print, which is why in movies and forensic cop shows or blah, 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 you see, or even when you go, a lot of people do stuff like buy a gun or look at a car. You'll see people who are even non-criminals making sure to wipe their fingerprints off so that they're not set up and set back, trapped back into a bad situation because their fingerprints are tied to this thing. Especially if you take apart like guns, there's lots of little pieces and such. So every piece has to be cleaned, and because again, even one partial print or hair left behind at a scene of a crime or attached to a weapon that's utilized in a crime can trap you into a criminal charge, right? And also koala bears' fingerprints are so similar to people. So we also were under the delusion that, people have their fingerprints and they're so, like, unique to you. And that we think that, like, we can't get fingerprints a lot of the time, too, because there's chemicals that can alter that. There's, depending on the proteins and the fat in your body, it can change and affect what you leave behind. People can also, like, the same way that cops can go into someone's house and take their hairbrush or pick up their coffee cup out of the garbage, they can use that DNA to tie and to plant evidence, the same way that they can use it to solve a crime. So we have, like, I was saying about the, like,